Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our mob grazing workshop. I think we've got an excellent program set up for you this afternoon, and hope it's very informative. I want to really emphasize the point that we want to be quite informal, and we'll have a lot of opportunity for questions and interaction, so just feel free to jump in. Overall, this project is what we call our Demonstrating Mob Grazing Impact. And it's been, we are in our third year now, and it was funded by the USDA-NRCS Conservation Innovation Grants. It involves a team of UNL faculty and staff here in Nebraska. In addition, the Nebraska Grazingland Coalition and Nadine Bishop from the Nebraska NRCS is serving as part of the advisory board for the overall project. In addition, we do have collaborators at South Dakota State University that are involved in the project as well. And in fact, in South Dakota, they have a similar setup where they have multiple producers and ranchers where they are also collecting some data. And in addition, the South Dakota Grazingland Coalition and Stan Bolts of the South Dakota NRCS serve as part of the advisory committee. Well, I wanted to start off real briefly with just what is mob grazing. It's a term that we're not really sure where the term came from, but it's used quite frequently to basically describe where we have very high stocking densities for a very short period of time on our grazing or pasture lands. Now, typically, or what we're defining the mob grazing as having at least a stocking density of 200,000 pounds of beef per acre or 200 animal units per acre, all the way up to 1 million pounds of beef per acre or even more. Now, depending on who you talk to, some people who have stocking densities less than 200,000 pounds of beef per acre will also use the term mob grazing in terms of how they approach what they're. The objectives of our overall project dealing with mob grazing were really to look at the rangeland vegetation composition and productivity, what's happening with the soil and water quality, as well as what's going on with the soil carbon as well as other nutrients. Some of the proposed benefits of mob grazing, as typically when practitioners are talking about mob grazing, indicate that might be seeing reduced selective grazing. Increasing of harvest efficiency is a very important principle or benefit that people would be thinking about. An increased diversity of plant species, more uniform manure or urine distribution, increased pasture productivity ultimately, and then improved soil quality or building of the soil. The mechanisms to come about those benefits appear to be that there might be the trampling of vegetation and incorporation of litter through hoof action, and with that more uniform manure and urine distribution promote microbial activity and the rapid recycling of nutrients. Secondly, that benefit from the recycling of nutrients and incorporation of seeds into the soil might result in increased production and botanical diversity. And then the long or extended rest periods affiliated with mob grazing allow for deeper root development and resulting in drought resistance and potentially improved wildlife habitat. Our collaborators in Nebraska, we have worked with 4 individuals over the last couple of years, including Chad Peterson, whom you'll hear from today, Rick Marshall, south of Ainsworth, Delton Rhodes at Brewster, and then Randall Shin, who we began working with last summer in 2013. All of our cooperator sites in Nebraska are located more or less in the north central part of the state. Most of the individuals are doing their mob grazing on sub-irrigated meadow, but we have one of the producers, Rick Marshall, who's doing some of that work, the mob grazing work on upland range. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first presenter this afternoon, Chad Peterson, who's been practicing mob grazing since 2001 and has an extended amount of experience with that. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.